Now let's talk quickly about security requirements of the application. So security is a very important part of application development. If you're putting security in as an afterthought, typically there are going to be a lot of holes and issues that will arise with your application. So just know that it's not just about usernames and passwords that are getting stored in the application. You want to make sure when you are storing usernames and passwords that you're not storing the password in plain text in a database, right? So what I mean by that is it's very common for usernames and passwords to get stored in a database table, right? And so you'll have John Doe as my username. My password is say password 123, and you look inside that database and there's a row in there that has John Doe as the username and password 123 in the password column. Something like that is very insecure because if anybody ever gets access to that database table, they can go and look up every single person's username and password in there. So you want to make sure that the passwords are not being stored in plain text. That should be, one of the first requirements that you have, written down before you even start your project. There's password hashing, which allows you to crypt or hash passwords so that they can't be read. If I go into a database and take an export of the table, I'm not going to know what your password is. I'll know a hash value for it, but I'm not going to know the actual password. There's some even more advanced things that you can do with passwords as well. So just make sure that at the very minimum, passwords in a database should be hashed and should not be stored in plain text. Also, just consider the type of data that's going to be housed in the application. So if you have a subscription application and you're asking people for credit card payment, and that credit card payment is a recurring subscription, and now you're storing that credit card data so that you can, continue to bill the account every single month or every year, or whatever the frequency is. You want to make sure that, the credit card data can't be pulled from the database, very easily if that database gets compromised. If there's any personally identifiable information that's stored in the database, this is key if you have any kind of healthcare application, and there are all sorts of rules and regulations around the storage of PII or personally identifiable information. So just make sure that whatever you're storing in there, and it could be something like you're integrating other applications together. So now you're storing the credentials to someone else's application inside your application. Whatever you're storing, make sure that you understand, any, rules and regulations that may be around for your type of industry or for the type of data you're storing. And also just make sure that, if anybody gets access to, this type of information in there, how can we store it in such a way that it's not going to be, readable or used for, identity theft or any type of crime.